you tell I'm in denial?
You can't stay at the top forever.
I was also very surprised when I looked at my phone and saw Joe Girardi dismissed.
Well, I think mine were with common sense.
I think now belongs in the all-time greats top 10.
Boston, I really think only got to this point because of a guy named Chris Middleton being out for the Bucks.
That power play just was unbearable. It was humming.
Man, am I happy. I knew that this was going to happen. I knew he was going to come back.
When I think of New York Yankees now is Judge, probably people in the past when Jeter was coming up.
I would be shocked. A little bit hurt.
Hey, this is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, TexasFootball.com, and Valley Sports Southwest. You are listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our MLB Opinions of the Week. I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by the man that you and I have been joined forces for a long time. 3 years to be exact. Austin.
Yeah, a little bit over that mark, and this is going to be a big offseason, especially if Ohtani signs long-term, and he's going to take his time. We're probably going to go through winter meetings in a long time before we actually hear it, but Yamamoto may sign soon, and Yamamoto wants to play with Japanese players, and he'd like it to be on the West Coast. So what happens if Yamamoto signs with the Giants, or if the Giants somehow get Ohtani before then? Would that sign both of them? Could that happen?
Yeah, I think that could happen. I'm not sure. I don't feel this is like a Kawhi PG deal. But I think it's possible, especially. I feel like Yamamoto goes to the Cubs. I think that may have been my prediction. But yeah, it seems like the Giants are pursuing Yamamoto and Ohtani, which I think would be huge, and that'd be great for the Giants. You and I predicted Ohtani to the Giants, and I think that's one thing. I'm very curious on where Yamamoto wants to go because from what I've heard, he's just a fantastic pitcher, and we've already talked about Ohtani. But I think, yeah, if it were to happen, a team would have to get Ohtani first.
I agree.
Ohtani, yeah,
and I do think there's probably a good chance. Like, I know that Yamamoto wants to be on the West Coast, but if Ohtani does go to the Cubs, I could definitely see him go to the Cubs or any other team for that matter, because Ohtani and Yamamoto know each other very well. And I think that would make sense for them to team up. They have a lot of control on where they're going. Japanese prospects are really the only ones that are true free agents at this age, and will get paid just like that. So I'm excited to see where one of them goes. I just don't know if Ohtani's going to sign a long-term deal, because I do think that affects if Yamamoto is going to go there or not. Because if Ohtani just signs a 2-year, like $70 million per year contract just to push it forward a little bit so he can pitch and then get even more money, I don't think Yamamoto would be as inclined to sign there because there's no guarantee for him to stay. But if Ohtani signs a 10-year, 9-year deal, I think it's much more likely that Yamamoto moves to that team.
Yeah, and are Yamamoto and Ohtani is older, correct? But
yeah, Yamamoto's only 25.
Okay. Isn't Ohtani, or is Ohtani close to 30?
Ohtani's 29.
29. Okay. Did they play together or?
They played in the WBC.
Okay, gotcha. I was just curious. But yeah, Ohtani, man, I would love it if Ohtani signed a short-term deal. I think that would just raise the market. Because if you're a team, I think you're scared about giving him a long-term deal.
I don't think so.
For both sides.
I don't think so. Because you got to think that there will be a sort of people will buy his jersey. People will go to games to watch Ohtani play. Even if he isn't as good as he has been recently, people want to see him play. There's a lot of Japanese fans at the game. They want to see him play. You will sell tickets. And I think that would pay for itself over the long term.
Okay. Yeah. And if you can get them together, especially long-term deal, I like that, especially for Yamamoto. Because then you get to starting, like those are, I know Yamamoto hasn't pitched yet, but I think he's going to be a great pitcher. Like, I'd be shocked if he's terrible. So I think that's two great pitchers. Like that's 2/5 of your rotation already set for like 5 or 7 years.
Yeah, I agree. The effect that a long term deal would have on financials and the market, like you mentioned, would be huge.
And yeah, I'm trying to think, but I don't think it's like if I had to predict it was going to happen, I'd probably say a third of me thinks like, oh, they are teaming up. I think it could just be Ohtani, and that may be why Yamamoto's taking his time. He's maybe looking, okay, if someone signs Ohtani, maybe I'll take a discount. But I don't think Ohtani is driving it. It's like, you sign me, you sign Yamamoto. I think it's teams thinking about it.
Yeah, Otani, I don't think is worried about anything else besides how this team will fit him, how he'll play there, and if he can win a championship. He's very focused on winning.
Yeah, I feel he's Otani's very focused on like, okay, I went to a place because I believe he liked the Angels, but he's like, I want a place where they have good management, good competitiveness, and they're gonna because I think if you're a team and you get Ohtani and you get to the playoffs, that's just enough, I think. Especially now. Because we've seen teams get hot.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like I'm not saying they'll win a World Series off that. But if you can just go, okay, let's get to the playoffs. We have Ohtani. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair. It'll definitely take a lot though to when you spend that much money, unless you're like a very big market team, it's going to be hard to make other moves. That's what I'm worried about for a team signing Ohtani that isn't the biggest market, like a New York or a Boston, because you will have to make cuts elsewhere to make that happen.
And my thing is like I think what you brought up, like the spending, like people are going to buy their jerseys, that money will help alleviate some of that pressure. But that is a great point. You have to make sure you have a good infrastructure
It would
and
that
get Ohtani.
but I'm kind of referring to you saying that there was going to be a short term deal. The short term, if you're paying him $75 million a year for 2 years, right, or some crazy amount, those ticket sales or those jersey sales don't really affect quick enough for you to make the moves necessary to compete during that window. That's the problem. Is how
Okay,
can you
that's
make those moves? How can you make those trades in that short window for you to compete? If you were to sign a long term deal, I could see how that would help 5 years down the line. Okay, Otani's 34, he's still in his prime, but now we have those guys we traded for coming up from the minors and actually performing well, and we can pay those guys to stay on the team. But in a short 2 year deal, I don't know if that's possible.
yeah, that you do bring up a good point. My counter argument would be I'm just going to eat the dead money and I'm going to stink the following years. Like I'm going to just take.
Yeah, but that doesn't always result in a net positive.
Yeah.
You have to
Like
win it because you said before, right, that making the playoffs is enough. But if you're doing that, it's not
That,
enough.
yeah.
If you don't win a championship and you spend that sort of money for 2 years and just to say that I'm going to tank after I lose Ohtani and you don't win a championship, your fans will be very mad and you'd have lost Otani, and you'd almost be in a worse situation than the Angels because you spent a lot more money for Otani and didn't win anything, and then lost him for nothing.
Yes. Yeah, it'd be a risk, but yeah, I think you got to take a risk. You got to take that risk if you want that reward. But it is it'd be tough.
I'm trying everything to get it out of a short-term deal. I don't know if short-term
long term would be better because you can just push it off to the future and spend a ton. So
yeah,
and then Yamamoto I think is only long term. So you just want it's probably 5 years. So I don't know if that's long term. I think you'd want to get Ohtani to like a 10-year thing.
something like that. Yeah, anything 7+, I feel like is really what you're shooting for.
Yeah. So that's all I got. Any final thoughts, and you can close this one out.
Yeah, no necessarily final thoughts, but thank you guys for listening. Where do you guys think Ohtani or Yamamoto goes to your favorite team? To any of our favorite teams. I certainly hope so, because that would be amazing, even though it's not the most likely thing in the world. But check out our recent videos, and thanks again for you guys listening.